White South African declared South Africa the most deadliest country in the world. And then the black South Africans had this to say. This guy said, his name is Clark Kent. He said black South Africans and he's a black South African, and the guy who owns this video is spot on. He said every member of my family has been robbed. I was robbed at knife point, experienced a break-in, and nearly got hijacked by fake police. And this other person said, I wonder what the core of the problem could be. So this person who is arguing with him is wondering what the core of the problem could be. This one said, could it be something in the water? So, all of these things, they keep defending all their atrocities. Definitely, a person who is guilty of something will always want. Someone say, friend of friend was car hijacked in her own garage and by two men in three-piece suits. They never said a word, just pointed what they wanted with the pistols. She was very, very scared with her baby and at the back seat, but they took out the child. Do you understand? This is going on every other day in South Africa. This one said, the trip to South Africa. He said, my trip to South Africa, I got in a cab at Joburg. As they were going through the doggy area, a woman kind of half naked in front of the car, and the driver clipped her. He hit the gas and bailed and was like, shit, man, is she okay? Should we go back? And he said, it's a setup, my friend. If we stop, they will have robbed us. Beautiful place, but very scary. Did you hear that? These are people who went to South Africa for holiday. And then the woman got hit. And then she is feeling, hey, yeah, maybe we should go and check on the person. He said, don't try that. That's a trap. That is people's experience. You watch this video to the end so that you listen to this other man's, he's a white South African giving his own experience living in South Africa, that he can never go back to South Africa again. This one said, I used to work with a South African guy who now living in rural England in peace. He went back with this young family to visit his parents and told me how scary it was, hyper vigilant and hyper aware at all times. He said he thinks a lot of people there have PTSD. Wow. This one say, I am South African Chinese. I grew up in Joburg and also lived and worked in Hong Kong, going to China. You have experienced both culture so extensively. Truly resonate and love your content. I live in Canada now and always good listening to your views. And this other person said, watching a stadium full of black South Africans chant "Kill the Boer" was an eye-opening experience to the hatred that fills the region politics. Watching American media excuse it as part of their culture was an eye-opening experience that I don't hate our media enough. I think I do, but I don't. This one saying, my family and relatives have been car hijacked, from eviction, attacked, robbed, and gunpoint shot at. You will always know someone is in your circle where he has happened to. That is everybody around them. It has almost happened to. This one say, it is crazy. I can't believe he drove that Dex backwards through the whole video. This one does not understand the editing. This one said, yes, most surviving African stories. Love her. This one said, a lot of South Africans immigrated from Australia. I was standing in the line at the supermarket and these two South African ladies met up for the first time since moving. This one said, which means some people have run. South Africans have run away to Australia. It is that bad. Yet they come for Nigerians all the time. Guys, watch this video today and listen to that man's experience. It will shock you. This one said, I have worked with several South Africans who are now living in Canada. They complain food and housing are more expensive in Canada, but as the fella said, what price tag can you put on your family's safety? You see, so South Africans are running away from their country to Australia, to Canada, and later they will say it's a lie. It's only Nigerians that travel. Have you seen this man? He has exposed you people. This one said, the day before I immigrated, to the US, there was a armed robbery, truck robbery by the bank I was at. The guy at the ATM next to me was shot in the leg in the 90s. So this one even happened in the 90s. But this guy is talking about something that just happened. Something that just happened, because this video is just 3 months ago. Something that just happened. So which means this South Africa not being safe did not start today. It's been a long time coming. The thing has happened a long time. This one say, funny fact, the reason why so many people have a wrong impression of what a lion roar sounds like. This one said, one thing I love about South Africa is that I meet is nothing can break their spirit. Every single day of them, they regulate with unbelievable stories, street shooting, hung-ups, and gun hits. Now, wow, South Africa is this scary, we didn't know. South Africa, the deadliest country in the world. Wow. Guys, before I allow you watch this video, this man had put together to call South Africa the deadliest country in the world. I want us to go through perspectives. You see this world we are. Whatever it is that you say about other people, there are 1,000,001 people also saying the same things about your own country that you will never ever begin to deny. Those who have lived in your country, those who have maybe had relationship with your people. But when you keep talking bad about other people, what do you expect? So I will play this man's audio and allow you listen to what he had to say, that his experience in South Africa and why he has come to the conclusion that South Africa is the deadliest country in the world. In the world, though, he didn't even say in Africa, but in the world. Let us listen, guys. Let's listen, guys.
Lions outside my window. Gun battles. Disease. Friends being murdered.
You see?
Home invasions.
Are you hearing?
Growing up in South Africa was an exercise in survival.
Jesus. Wow.
There's a reason I'll never go back to South Africa, and very much like that ancient curse, may you live in interesting times, I certainly have lived and continue to live in interesting times. Lucky me.
See how dirty the place is.
I thought it'd be interesting to tell you all about what it was like growing up and surviving growing up in South Africa.
Are you listening?
So let's get some of the more fantastical things out of the way. Lions in my backyard? Really?
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people have this stereotype about people living in Africa that you've got giraffes and zebra and whatever walking through your backyard. That's a bunch of nonsense. You have to go to the game parks and into the real far-flung wilderness to see that sort of thing.
All those things.
But it just so happens that I lived right next to the Lion Park.
Are you
now, the
hearing
Lion
this?
Park's a kind of an interesting place. You go there, you drive your car, you pay money, and then you can drive through. They've got this massive big area that you drive through, and they have lions in there. And of course, as long as you stay in your car,
nothing will
you're
happen
safe.
to you.
You can take photos of the lions and stuff. There have been some ridiculous incidents in the past where tourists have gotten out to take pictures with the lions and been eaten and stuff. That actually happened. But in general, people that stay inside their cars are fine.
Safe,
Now, this is very close to me, and I used to ride my dirt bike out there and actually drive right up to the fences and watch them feed the lions and things like that. It was kind of cool. But lions, they escape sometimes.
Yes, they do.
And they did escape. And they actually walked all the way down
You see
to
those
the
girls
river.
standing
My property,
there.
the place where we lived was on a river. And they walked into our property and actually walked right past my window. I was living on a cottage on the property. And in the morning, lion tracks were found. So it was kind of weird. One thing that I recall that was actually kind of cool and charming was at night I would hear the lions roar from my room.
That can be scary too.
Weird, but if you've ever heard
That
a
can
lion
be very
roar,
scary too.
it's not quite what you expect. It sounds more like a complaint. Here, I'll play a clip for you.
Okay. That's them roaring at night. Wow. Scary. Scary. That's scary, you know.
So imagine going to bed at night with that in the background, echoing through the sort of dark wilderness, because I lived in a very rural sort of area. I got to admit, I always thought lions sounded. I just remember looking at that. Anyway, you know what's more stupid?
This one is even batting
that
like.
was one. I had another one which happened. This wasn't a gun battle, but this is quite a disturbing incident that happened when I was quite young. So
See what are settling everywhere. See how dirty the environment is.
And I'm in the house, and again, we lived on the river. And where we lived, there was a big steep hill that came all the way down like a valley, down over the river over a little bridge, and then up the other side. So I was just chilling in my room, and I hear gunshots.
Wow.
So
Gunshots.
I ran out, and this is back in the day. I've carried a gun since I was 16.
Wow.
In South Africa, obviously, because of the place we lived in. We had armed robberies and so on, so it was necessary.
And they are still having
So I
robbery
ran
till
out
today.
to go and see what was going on, and I ran out to the bridge. And what had happened is a car had driven down there, and they'd shot a guy in the head
Hey.
and thrown him on the side of the road. So I ran into this horrible scene of this guy missing half his head, which is not very pleasant, and
You
it's
must
one of
have
those
been
things
through a
that you
lot.
don't quite forget. So that was an interesting one, and that comes off the top of my head, no pun intended. But yeah, that was one of the more interesting ones. I also once drove past a massive taxi battle, which was quite disturbing. And I don't know if you guys know, but
This
in
is
South
scary.
Africa, the taxis are the mafia.
The taxis are the mafia.
With millions of South Africans dependent on public transport, the government is not taking any chances.
See what they are doing. Shooting.
Rival taxi associations have
They
been
were
fighting
shooting.
for ownership of a busy route. Confrontations have raged for years.
Wow.
And it's got worse.
Jesus.
With more than 80 people killed so far this year.
80 people killed.
24 of them in
Wow.
July alone.
Wow.
And these guys, they control their taxi
Jesus.
routes very, very, very strictly. If any other taxi tries to pick up customers along their, their designated route, they will intervene. And that's what happened in this case. Is there was a full taxi full of people. And it's a minibus taxi, so you got 15, 20 people inside of that.
And this kind of people are coming to bash
So they were-
Nigerians when they are
it looked
living
like
in
a
this
war
kind
zone.
of
I don't need to get
danger
into
zone.
details, but there were a lot of bodies lying around, and that was quite a scarring thing to see as well.
Wow.
That was another one of these sort of close calls. Another one that
That's
happened is
scary.
pretty much
Very
in
scary.
South Africa, if it's late at night and you need to buy something, the only place you can go is a gas station. And you got these gas station shops, and they'll sell, like a 7-Eleven, they'll sell you like drinks and things.
Okay.
So I went up to my local gas station. As I was pulling into the gas station, a car sped off, and I walked inside, and they just had an armed robbery, and there were bullet holes in they had bulletproof glass, but they were like they'd been shot bullet holes. Luckily, nobody had been killed, but the staff behind the counter were very traumatized, and they just called the cops. Cops hadn't arrived yet.
The cops hadn't arrived.
Yeah, I walked in there, and needless to say, I couldn't buy whatever I wanted to buy because that was the situation.
Sure.
So I survived many of these close calls. I also had a situation which I just got to tell you, because this, when you have your life flashing before your eyes?
Yes.
I went to this house party just up the road from me. And this friend, he had some random people come over.
See how dirty this place is.
And he had this kind of
and they will be bragging about Nigeria, bragging that Nigeria is bad. Oh
nuts,
my God.
Right? And he's having this big house party, and I wasn't really interested in the crowd that was there. As people I didn't know, and they were kind of scummy, and I wasn't really interested in hanging out with him. So I went up to his room, and I was messing around on his computer in his room. And one of his friends had brought a gun along, and this is very common in South Africa. A lot of people carry guns. It's just the way it is, because it's an unsafe country. And he'd left the gun in the room, okay, for safekeeping or something. He'd gone and put it like on his shelf, his bookshelf, while he was drinking downstairs, and I don't know, they were smoking weed or something down there.
You see, and later they will say it's Nigerians that bring weed to them.
And the next minute, I'm sitting on the computer, and I hear this giggling behind me. And I turned around, and this guy's not-so girlfriend had picked up the gun and was pointing it at me, trying to pull the trigger, and was giggling at the same time.
He's a lie.
And that was one of those moments where, my life flashed before my eyes very quickly. I obviously just moved out of the way very quickly and took it away from her. And luckily the safety was on, because it was around in the chamber.
Jesus.
So, close call, very close call. So she was obviously drunk or high or both, or I have no idea, and thought it would be a funny thing to point a gun at me and pull the trigger.
Imagine?
Anyway, so let's move on from the whole gun thing, because I got lots of gun-related stories from South Africa. It's just the way it is. And let's move on to disease.
Wow.
Okay,
Jesus
so
Christ. This is serious.
there was this time where, again, this river that we had passing through the property is called the Yuxke River, which means the ox yoke. Because
Wow.
apparently they found an ancient oxen yoke
In that
the river,
area.
which
Okay.
supposedly weren't people that were using oxen back in
Wonderful.
ancient times. Anyway,
See how
that's
they
what I
take
heard.
South Africa
Could be
is
wrong.
safe. See the
So this
environment.
Yuxke River, I
And
used
they'll be
to
comparing it to Nigeria.
explore.
Ha.
So I'm talking about, just before I was 20, I'm, talking
Wow.
about sort of 14, 15, 16 years old,
Wow.
that type of age. And I used to walk up and down this river and go explore down the river. And that's kind of what I did. So I was walking down the river one day, just doing my usual thing. I sometimes swam in the river, but not often.
See how
But anyway,
dirty
I'm
the
walking along the
environment
river.
is. See how
I get
dirty
home,
this
and
environment is.
within about
And they will be
15
talking and
minutes of getting home,
bragging.
I suddenly got
Aye.
hit with a
I'm not
massive
seeing a
fever.
people like
I
this.
mean, incredible.
I've
No
never
warning, just
seen.
came out of nowhere. Massive fever. I couldn't move. I had no energy. I just
Hey.
lay down on the couch and
Now, wow.
couldn't move. That,
If you was driving and saw a guy by the road with an
I've had
iPad.
attempted hijackings multiple,
Wow.
but I always had my head on a swivel in South Africa.
Wow.
And I'll tell you about an attempted hijack that happened to me, actually.
Wow.
I was driving down the road and I saw a guy on the side of the
Thank
road.
God you relocated back to your country, or
with
if
his,
you
next to
relocated
his
out of
car,
South
sort of thumbing
Africa.
a,
Not South Africa is your country,
like
though.
help, type of thing. And he looked decent. He looked well dressed. He didn't look like a
Wow.
criminal.
Wow.
Looked like a typical, businessman or something
Kai.
along these lines. He looked really nice. So I stopped, but
To pick him.
something in the back of my mind was
Said-
still deciding whether I should help this guy or not, because we all know in South Africa that people do this on purpose. The people do bait people into stopping so that they can
So that they can hijack their
They throw
car.
rocks on the road, or they
Oh
put
my
something in
God.
the road so that
So that your car
you
will now
stop and then they
stop.
come and attack you.
Yes.
So because I had that
2 or
last
3
minute
times.
doubt, I didn't stop right next to him. I pulled up quite far ahead of the guy. So I stopped my car and I noticed this guy came running really fast
Wow.
towards my car, and I was like, there's something wrong here. And he pulled open the passenger door and he jumped in with a knife.
Jesus.
Now, like I said, I used to carry a gun in South Africa, so I pulled my gun out and pointed at him.
Yes,
He jumped
good.
right back out when he saw the gun.
Yes.
In the meantime, I noticed in the background his broken down car, suddenly heads had popped up, because there were obviously
Wow.
people lying down in there.
Wow.
Heads had popped up and it
Wow.
started driving towards me.
Wow.
So it was a trick.
Did you hear that? So he tried to help this guy, and then he noticed that the guy came in with a knife, hopped into his car with a knife, and immediately he brought out his gun and pointed at the guy. The guy runs out, and on the car that he pretended that had broken down, he saw heads pop out, meaning that those people were the ones waiting to get him as their next catch, but he was smart enough. God in heaven, you see South Africa, see, you people are not supposed to be talking to us, because you are a small country but very deadly. You are a very small country but very deadly. On a daily basis, people give their encounter. This video was done a few months ago. This man is giving his encounter about